Welcome everybody. My name is Darlène Dubuisson, and I'm happy to introduce our panel. It's really more discussion leaders, and Mark will be sharing some links with you in the chat, and we'll talk about how we got here. But essentially, we started a conversation, I want to say perhaps a month ago, through a series of NACLA articles, each of us thinking ahead with what would be necessary um, in light of the election and also the environment of anti-Haitianism, but a lot of political turmoil. So we're all coming from different places with different backgrounds. And we thought that this town hall would be a good way to kind of come together as contributors to the NACLA series, but also in community with others to have a kind of drumbeat of ideas, particularly now. So I would like to introduce the, sorry, give me a second. Mark, when you get a chance, can you, the links are gone. I don't know why I don't have them.
I have them.
They're in the chat, Darlene.
Okay, great. So to the panel, so this town hall is organizing against anti-Haitianism after the election. Mark will put a link, if he hasn't done so already, to the series of NACLA articles. So again, Darlène Dubuisson, University of Pittsburgh, Mark Schuller, Northern Illinois University, and we have our discussion leaders, some of whom could not be here, but did contribute, right, and to the NACLA piece. And also we want to thank our co-sponsors, of course, the Haitian Studies Association for hosting this really timely and important conversation, the North American Congress on Latin America, NACLA, Faith in Action, NYU School of Law, Global Justice Clinic, the Haitian Bridge Alliance, Human Rights First, the Institute for Justice and Democracy in Haiti, and I think it's Cote Center. With that, I'll give it to my co-organizer to get us started. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Darlene. So we began this series as a reflection piece. Our first piece was published on September 30th, which was the dual anniversary of the first coup d'etat against Aristide, and also the Immigrant Responsibility Act in 1996, which Bill Clinton signed into law, which set up the deportation machine. Just really briefly, what can Haitian people and allies, accomplices do to stem the anti-Haitian rhetoric, policy, and violence? Whatever the outcome, the community needed to remain vigilant and prepared. This town hall, we're aiming to allow us to unite our strengths and plan future actions and organizing efforts. Just so from a little bit of context of what got us here, I'm going to share just a couple graphics just to show what we all observed, what we all felt
Mark,
this last
I
election cycle.
apologize. Mark, I apologize. I sent a chat. Can you tell people about the interpretation? If people want interpretation. Thank you. Merci.
Do you want me to speak about it? I'm sorry, we're
Yes.
having technical difficulties with the interpretation.
Okay.
So Nada Sherpan, who we're very appreciative to, is writing summaries in the chat. If you commencer en créole. So si vous besoin interprétation créole, malheureusement nous gagnons un problème technique avec ça. So, ou pas gagner un petit résumé dans le chat, et puis, n'a fait travail pour gagner captions avec traduction dans un moment. Si ça passe, m'a mettez ça dans le chat. Merci.
OK. Merci.
So the captions, there was a question about that. I believe that there was manual captions. So there will be, you just have to follow along the chat. Because when we have automatic closed captioning, that would have been in the language that they would have been in English. Yes. So anti-Haitianism is played a huge role in what we all felt the last several months. I'm going to go ahead and share my screens just so folks can see a little bit how we got here. So this is when folks can see, this is we're seeing some trends. Of course, polls only tell part of the story and they're imperfect, but they are a measure of some things. And this is an aggregate of several different polls. So if you notice, for example, Harris peaks at a certain moment. She peaks around September 11th. The comments that were made that J.D. Vance said about Haitian immigrants in Ohio were made on the 10th. So you can just look at the national just for another context. So if you see again here, Harris peaks on September 18th nationwide. I'm gonna try to do this. And now I can't do this. So Pennsylvania, same story. She peaks at September 19th. So I'm gonna stop the share. But if you look at, if you look nationwide, and in the swing states that made the difference in this last election, JD's comments that were signal boosted by the presidential candidate on that debate stage on September 10th had an immediate impact. Scapegoating immigrants is most definitely not a new phenomenon in US politics and politics elsewhere, but it is a sobering impact that we need to be considering. Anti-Haitianism is not just about anti-immigrants, it is anti-Blackness, and it is particularly felt in something that there is in our society, maybe J.D. Vance himself, maybe people that were impacted by this and mobilizing this violence, did not know the history of the Haitian Revolution, which led to the Louisiana Purchase, which led to the U.S. Manifest Destiny, or the gag order in 1825 in the U.S. Congress, or other specific parts of Haitian history, but they know it in their gut. Haiti has consistently been maligned in US media. For example, I was co-producer, co-director of a documentary film and screened it on dozens of college campuses. And before I screened the film, I would ask the question, write down the first word that comes to your mind when you think of the word Haiti. And then I would ask people to raise their hand if that first impression was positive. Out of 1,200 people, before I stopped doing this, only one person raised his hand that he had a positive first impression of Haiti. So even if people don't know the specifics of Haitian history, they do know it in their gut, and they are mobilized against Haitians, and that did make a difference in this election. And so Darlène wants to take the next slice of the conversation.
Thank you so much, Mark. As Mark and I was talking about this, one of the things I wanted to caution is too much of a simplistic view of why, the election and why resulted in what it did. I think that there are very many variables, actually. I think anti-Haitianism is one thread. One of the things I do want to caution is to read anti-Haitianism as in an exceptionalist sort of discourse, but see the ways in which it overlaps with other discourses of exclusion. That is the exclusion of immigrants, the exclusion of Black and brown bodies, women, differently abled people, etc. I think it's one thread of many, and I want to caution us to kind of take Haiti and put it aside as this is the reason why the election did not work. I don't agree with that. one of the reasons why I do live in the Midwest, and nobody really knew that they were talking about Haitians, because that wasn't mentioned, and a lot of folks don't actually know where Haiti is. Um, like literally on a map. But there is a specter of Black otherness and a particular sort of anti-Blackness that Haiti and other images of otherness conjure. So I think as we're thinking, like what we propose, therefore, in the NACLA articles is to take this hemispheric approach that are looking at intersections of various forms of hate, and to not necessarily say that the scapegoating of Haitians is the reason why the election went the way it did, but that hate can be stoked and has been stoked through different populations. And if we can
I have to just kind of half listen in.
and if we can, sorry, if we can keep ourselves on chat, and if we can think about the ways in which Haiti becomes a metaphor for various forms of exclusion, I think for me, myself, especially being here, I think that is crucial to effective mobilizing, particularly in different contexts. So you'll see from the articles, it's not just the US. We have folks talking about what's going on in the DR, in Brazil, and Panama, not Panama, sorry, and the Bahamas, et cetera. So we're noticing this larger threat that requires us to think about commonalities. It requires us also to think about coalitions across different populations. So that's kind of the one caveat I wanted to put there.
And organizing in terms of a hemisphere approach, certain things become more visible than if we're not just in the mode of Haitian exceptionalism and US exceptionalism, but if we think in terms of anti-Haitianism as a hemispheric phenomenon, different analyses are possible and different solidarities are possible. And it was with that in mind that we put together the series. And then we will, we did invite some folks to share their thoughts on this, and we will share their bio in the chat, and we will share a link to their article in the chat. So we're just asking folks to give us a short context as to what your analysis of the situation was and where do we go, and then we will break off into small groups. But our first presenter is not able to be here, Pierre-Louis. I'm going to go ahead and put his in the chat. Pierre-Louis wrote a piece about anti-Haitianism, his research in the Bahamas, an article that he co-authored about theorizing anti-Haitianism, riffing on the discussions that are happening in the Dominican Republic, and we call the blacker than black, or the blackest form of black. Next up, we have Obed Lamy. I'm going to throw this link in the chat. And you can read.
It's your floor. I'm going to pin you. Are you speaking?
Should I speak now? Oh yeah, hello everyone, thank you for having me. So for my piece, I was looking at, so I'm a journalist and a documentary filmmaker. I have been on the ground in Springfield for the past, I don't know how many weeks. I just got back to Chicago last night. So for my piece as a journalist, I was interacting with people, members of the community. I was looking at the impact the statements that were made had on the Haitian community. There is a sense of fear. I talked to people who told me they don't go out anymore. They stay at home as much as possible. I've also heard those messages coming from leaders, even church leaders, urging people to stay home because they are afraid of violence. I was also being there, I got to interact with also journalists from mainstream media who were interviewing people and doing stories about the Haitian community. One thing I see was happening is how mainstream media kind of presented as stereotypical views of the Haitian migrants in Springfield. there is always the single story of a Haitian man who left Haiti because of economic challenges and came to Springfield, now facing again backlash. While that is true, but the community in Springfield is more diverse. They have different immigration status. Some of them are American citizen. They also got to vote. Some of them have also green cards. They are also part of different social classes. I was interviewing people who owned dozens of houses in Springfield, as well as people who are sharing the same bed with a friend. What that does in terms of impact is that the way the news, mainstream media cover the Haitian community, what it does to me is that it reinforces the idea that Haitian or migrants, they have to work hard to deserve some sort of respect or even dignity. I was also interested in how the community was organizing itself to respond to the moment. In my piece, I talk about the Haitian Community Alliance, that has been doing a lot of work, both with the Haitian community, but also working with local and city and state officials to come up with different programs to solve some of the challenges the community is facing, especially challenges as it relates to driving. There's a huge driving issue over there. There's been a lot of car accidents, so they are implementing programs in Creole to allow more Haitians having access to driver license. So that was very interesting, and this is something I don't really see mainstream media talk enough about. And lastly, in my piece, I argue for the need for the Haitian community to document or to tell its own story, because I think this moment we are witnessing right now is not just, as I said, about eating pets. It's also controlling a narrative about a community, and that will define for the public opinion what that community is. And I think that's why it's very important for local people in Springfield and Haitian migrants to tell their own stories. And that's why I also felt compelled, besides my daily reporting, to work in a documentary about what's happening in Springfield, looking specifically at how the community is building and is sustaining itself to respond to the moment and also forge a path forward in Springfield. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Obed. Nou gen traduksyon pou ni ala si ou we bouton en bas ki se cesse, show captions, epi wap we captions ki ekri en Creole haïtien. So our next presenter would be Gabrielle Apollon, as a human rights attorney and director of the Haitian Immigrant Rights Project at NYU School of Law's Global Justice Clinic. She's Haitian Canadian and former immigration attorney. Apollon coordinates the Hemisphere Network of Haitian Migrants' Rights, and I'm going to in her bio and her link to her article and knock it into the chat. So, Gabrielle.
Hi, thank you, everyone, and thank you so much, Obed, for what you shared. So as Mark mentioned, I coordinate the Hemispheric Network for Haitian Migrants' Rights, which I'm probably going to share a bit more about that briefly, but I delve into it further in the article. But the network is a group of Haitian migrant rights leaders in about 14 different countries in the hemisphere. We have leaders in source, transit, and destination countries. And some of the main objectives of the network, and this all ties back into the reason this series I thought was such an important endeavor. But the main objectives are ensuring that accurate information is shared quickly, particularly about changing immigration laws and policies across borders. As we know, our community and our diasporas now span the entirety of the hemisphere, from Argentina, Chile, all the way up to Canada. And the second objective is really trying to ensure that the work that Haitian immigrants are doing for their own communities is amplified. I think a lot of times we have this thing where there's a crisis and then these big organizations swoop in and say they're helping Haitians. And yet our communities and our people are the ones who are fighting for our own people day in and day out and when the cameras fade. And then thirdly, the network's goal is to facilitate transnational advocacy because in most of the places Haitians have migrated, and as is discussed in a number of these articles, there's a very similar story. Unfortunately, Haitians are facing racism and xenophobia. And one of the things I mentioned in the article is that there's this dichotomy of hypervisibility and invisibility. We saw the hypervisibility when you see Springfield and the fact that they continue to amplify the numbers of Haitians that were there and continue to just amplify, just how big of a quote threat this was. We see that in so many places. I highlight specifically what is happening in the Dominican Republic right now in this article. I think it's quite sobering in this moment as we grapple with the threats of mass deportation by Trump and his administration that there is a current mass deportation happening in the DR of Haitians that is very clearly a campaign of racial terror. They announced at the beginning of October that they were going to deport up to 10,000 Haitians per week. And unfortunately, my article was released a few weeks ago, but to report today that this month, from October to November, they deported and returned approximately 60,000 Haitians. It includes people who were forcibly had to flee because they were afraid for their lives. And so they call them voluntary returns, but we know that's not voluntary. I'm not going to go into a ton of details about the campaign, but to mention that there were over 7,000 children deported, over 2,000 pregnant women. Unfortunately, it is deeply, deeply grim. But I also want to mention that these battles are deeply connected. Apologies, my daughter is in the background. But these battles are so deeply connected because the week before this campaign started, there was a large rally by ultranationalists in the Dominican Republic, and they were waving American flags. They were really excited about Trump and his, come to power. And so we know that even now they're further emboldened, unfortunately, by his administration. And we also, as part of our network, we've seen even, as Obed mentioned, the comments of Trump and Vance about Haitians in Springfield, we saw amplifications of that in Chile, DR, Bahamas. The last thing I'll mention, and I hope to delve into this further as we talk, is because our struggles are so interconnected, this is why we think it's so necessary that we have transnational organizing. This is why we think these spaces like the network, but we also know that we're not the only space where people are organizing and trying to mobilize transnationally. So I hope to talk about strategies of mobilizing and organizing and recognizing just how connected. And unfortunately, the fact that anti-Blackness knows no borders means that our mobilizing cannot afford to know borders as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next up is François, Pierre-Louis, and we're going to have the facilitators introduce themselves. I sent his bio and the link to his piece in the chat.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Hello, everyone. Again, I think there was a famous Haitian poet who once said that Haiti is the only country that has a last name. Whenever you read anything about Haiti in the media, they always say the poorest country in the hemisphere. In other words, what we are talking about, anti-Haitianism, it is also supported and many times advertised by the media because they always try to push this issue of poverty in Haiti. So one of the things that we talk about in my article is the fact that as much as they try to attack the Haitians, especially in the United States and the diaspora, Haitians also have fought back. Beginning in the 1980s, with the Haitian refugees coming to the United States, where they were put in jail in Guam, Florida, in Puerto Rico, and Guantanamo, and in Brooklyn. Haitian organizations in the diaspora in New York, Florida, and also progressive forces, primarily the religious sector, progressive organizations came together with the Haitians to protest the incarceration of the Haitians in those jails and push the Reagan administration to release them. Eventually, they were released with a temporary status, and some of them got to become, regular their papers, and they became citizens and got to stay here. Again, the same thing continued in the 1990s with the AIDS crisis, when Haitians were singled out as the carrier of HIV/AIDS, even though the scientists, researchers, everyone who worked on this issue said clearly that wasn't true, but the government and the FDA and all the health agencies in here kept on mentioning that. And we all, if you live in that period in Haiti or in the US and in New York, we lived through a period where Haitian Americans, especially young people, were stigmatized. There were a lot of Haitian workers who were unable to work because their employers didn't want to mix with them. Haitians were unable to give donate blood. So basically, they were singled out as a pariah group and anything can happen to them. In fact, a lot of Haitian Americans children were being aggressed in schools, in different schools. The employers also discriminated against them. Again, Haitians took to the streets, mobilized, blocked the Brooklyn Bridge for a whole day. Wall Street, that's when the Wall Street, a lot of American companies and institutions realized there were so many Haitians in New York City and in the metropolitan area. And then they eventually got the CDC and to repeal that decision and allowed Haitians to donate blood. So in my piece, I said we need another march on Brooklyn Bridge. We need another march on Wall Street, because the anti-Haitianism that starts right now is not going to end, even if Kamala Harris were to win the election. But she didn't win it, it's going to be even worse. And this is going to be because Haiti and Haitians are the weakest link in the chain. That's why Trump and the Republicans found Haitians to be the easier target to attack. At the same time, I talk about in my article the fact that we have to link the political turmoil that is happening in Haiti right now to the crisis here. We know it's U.S. policy supporting the wrong people in Haiti that is creating all that chaos and turmoil in Haiti, that all anarchy. So in other words, it's like a double attack to show that Haitians are coming here because they cannot stay at home, they cannot organize their own government, whereas at the same time it's the U.S. supporting those bad people in Haiti that prevents Haitians from living peacefully at home. So therefore, at those levels, we have to link the demonstrations, the protests, the organizing in the U.S. to having a stable government in Haiti. That's the only way Haitians will stop discriminating and fighting and deporting Haitians, whether it's in the U.S. or other parts of the hemisphere where Haitians are seeking asylum.
Thank you, François. I am pleased to introduce the next speaker. Give me a second to type it in the chat. Guerline Jozef, please feel free to introduce yourself. I'm going to send your bio into the chat.
Honneur, respect. It's good to be with you all. Thank you so much for having me and the amazing panelists who have shared before me have really centered the realities of where we are, the historical impact of it as well. My name is Gabrielle Jozef. I am the co-founder and executive director of the Haitian Bridge Alliance. Under the Haitian Bridge Alliance, we have the Only Black Immigrants Bail Fund and also the Cameroon Advocacy Network. We are the only Haitian women-led organization at the US-Mexico border covering the port of entries to provide humanitarian assistance On the Mexico side, on the US side, we also provide direct legal services, organizing, policy, and really centering the need of the community. We serve all people of African descent, all immigrants, but with a focus on people of African descent. I think for me personally, as we are looking into where we are today and how we are moving forward, people mentioned different issues that we have to deal with, and understanding how the anti-Black racism, the white supremacy itself is at the root of where we are today. And for those of us who are in the United States, we know clearly how this environment that we find ourselves in is a result of deeply rooted white supremacist and anti-Black racism specifically. And then when you bring it down to the Haitian community, that's another level of issues. And I always say that in the United States, we do not have an immigration issue. We have an issue with Black and brown immigrants coming into the country. If we remember very clearly, after former President Trump 45 during his campaign in 2015, 2016, he came to the Haitian community and pledged that he was going to be our biggest champion. And soon after he was elected, he turned around and called us S-hole country. And he clearly stated that he did not want people coming from Haiti and other African countries, but he will welcome people from Norway who happens to be of a lighter complexion and have blue eyes and blonde hair. So that really centered the fact that we do not have an immigration issue. We have an issue against Black and brown people, which brings me to a couple of things I want to address. And we clearly go back to the replacement theory, right? And from the replacement theory, we go to the browning of America. And from the browning of America, we are now dealing with Project 2025, which is literally a through line from one to the next, and the realization of what some people believe that this country and the world should be like. If I were to quickly touch on Project 2025, if you were following about 2 months ago, when they had a briefing, a congressional briefing, and Rep. Kassar, who is a congressman in Texas, addressed one of the members, the board members of Project 2025, and asked them to explain, at least in the middle of the document, where they said that Haiti should have been colonized, enslaved for at least 25 more years. And asking to explain that, what does that mean? And they tried to compare that we would have been better off if we were enslaved longer. We would have been better off if we were occupied and colonized longer. But you could read between the line. It's not just longer. If we were still colonized, it would have been better for the world. So what that brings me to the understanding of is our very existence is a problem for the world. How dare enslaved people stand up against a system that was created to say no more. And Haitian revolution, the Haitian independence itself is still today unacceptable to the world, to the point where even in a document such as Project 2025, Haiti is included. And the sentiment is we should have still been colonized, or at least colonized and enslaved longer. So really wanted to bring that into our attention to understand where we are and why we are where we are. And my dear brother, Professor Pierre-Louis, mentioned a couple of things as well. And I want to highlight, at least from where I'm coming from, the continued attack on the Haitian American community or on people of Haitian descent in the United States. I'm starting from here. The latest attack in Springfield, Ohio, is not because we are the weakest link, but because we are the strongest. Because they know for a fact if they can bring us down, if they can destroy our spirit, if they can destroy our courage, if they can destroy our resilience, then every other groups become fair games because they have to break through the fences, the strong ones, in order for them to get to everyone else. Again, that is coming from me, from what I am understanding, and knowing clearly that if we fall, others will follow. And so one of the actions that the Haitian Bridge Alliance took was to stand against this anti-Black racism, the deeply rooted white supremacy, and the attack on the Haitian community, and file criminal complaints against both Mr. Trump and Mr. Vance, right? Because we needed to not only make sure that the population in Springfield was able to really be represented, but we started getting the same narratives in Charleroi, Pennsylvania, in Long Island, New York, in San Diego, California, where one of our students went to school and a teacher looked around into him and said, "You know, some people eat pets, right?" to a 9-year-old little boy. So the reality is the continuous stigmatization upon Haitian community is a reflection of what has been happening to Black bodies for centuries. And we wanted to highlight that. So I know also Gabrielle mentioned the deportation machine. And this is nothing new. In the Dominican Republic, 60,000 people being deported. In the United States, under President Biden, over 40,000 people deported. And I want to also clarify for us, right? In 2021, 2022, when we were dealing with what we called the Haitian policy from the Biden administration, the Haitian Bridge Alliance is on the ground. And we were the ones receiving the Ukrainians. And we're the ones receiving the Haitians. While 21,000 Haitians were deported, 25,000 Ukrainians were received. And what we shared was the way we received our Ukrainian siblings seeking safety and protection from the war shouldn't be an exception. It should be the norm. And the fact that they found it necessary to deport pregnant women with babies, newborn babies at the same time, protecting others, is clearly unacceptable. So we see the deportation machine as an act of violence upon Haiti itself. Because first of all, we do know that people are fleeing Haiti, people are being forced to move due to a lot of US foreign policies in the core group that continues to destabilize. And now we have people being displaced, people moving into different countries. We are seeing second waves of mass forced displacement from Brazil, from Chile, from other places. And then we see people being returned and further destabilize Haiti as a country through deportation. So there's a lot that we need to unpack, but I can stop here because the reality is the system itself. If you even look into the history and the relationship between Haiti and the United States, we will be going all day.
Yeah, thank you for that, Grande. And unfortunately, we don't have all day, but this is one of many, hopefully not the last conversation. So our last facilitator, will be presenting in Haitian Creole. So for those who haven't yet opened the closed captions, you may wish to do so, because he will be speaking in Creole and you will all be able to read the caption in English. So the next facilitator is Handerson Jozef, and this is
Mark, excuse me, I'm sorry for interrupting. I would like to listen in Haitian Creole, and I didn't understand what I'm supposed to click on.
So if you look on the bottom, there should be a note that says closed captions, so you can
Oh, it
enable.
says, okay, this says hide caption, so I have to open that.
If it says hide, you should be seeing it. So to make sure that folks will be seeing the captions in English, because they'll be typed in English while he speaks in Creole.
Thank you.
Handerson.
Do minutes, s'il vous plaît.
Met commencer, Max Schuller. Bon, bonsoir tout le monde. Et tant que Jean-Professeur Max Schuller dit là, moi c'est Handerson Jozef, moi c'est anthropologue, et moi c'est professeur dans l'Université fédérale Rio Grande do Sul. Moi c'est spécialisé sur recherche sur migration et diaspora haïtienne en Amérique du Sud là, et spécialement Brésil avec dans la région la Guyane, la Guyane française, Suriname, etc. Donc, m'a profité et saluer et remercier professeur Max Schuller avec professeur Darlène et avec tout l'autre monde, avec institution, et pour qu'aucune initiative ça qui n'a mis sous pied là, pour nous mobiliser, pour nous collectivement dans plusieurs pays. C'est ça, moi, t'as relé un combat transnational pour nous utiliser une expression typiquement haïtienne. Originalité mouvement ça, li pour le non seulement une collaboration transnationale, mais surtout li pour le pour nous sortir dans focus non à peine non sud là, mais tout pour nous mettre accent sur sud tout. Côté nous ka porter tête ensemble contre n'importe tentative qui prétend criminaliser, condamner peuple migrants haïtiens, spécialement États-Unis, mais tout dans quelques pays Amérique du Sud, tant que j'aimerais dire là, Brésil, mais pas seulement Brésil, mais Chili tout, que journée aujourd'hui qui représentait des pays qui des gros pôles migration et diaspora haïtien dans le monde là. Par exemple, actuellement là, dans le livre que moi j'ai publié en 2022, moi montré système migration en Amérique du Sud là, entre Brésil, Chili, plus que 3000 moun dans le pays. Mais dans 8 dernières années, ça en pile haïtien ont décidé de quitter deux pays ça pour plusieurs raisons qui pas pour louer seulement cause économique, mais tout pour racisme, violence qui est aussi bien dans le pays ça. Comme moi pas grand pile temps pour me faire une présentation et plus et en plus avec un pile analyse, m'a profité faire référence à quelques données concrètes pour nous réfléchir après ça sur données ça. Depuis fin l'année 2014, journal et Brésil publié quelques nouvelles qui montraient plusieurs violences contre les migrants haïtiens dans le pays. Il y a quelques qui subissent agression morale, psychologique, agression physique tout. Moi, tout 2015 là, il y a un gros acte qui est passé dans la ville Sao Paulo, que d'habitude on a parlé du Brésil. Côté 6 haïtiens, te chita devant l'église qui relève mission passe, mission paix. C'est une l'église qui est responsable pour pastoral migration, pour droits migrants au Brésil. 3 Brésiliens passés dans une machine, ils ont dit en portugais, et Haïtiens viennent voler job nous pas bon ici. Ils aura les armes et puis ils tiré sous 6 Haïtiens ça côté 3 là-dedans, t'es blessé gravement. Et puis les privés dans l'hôpital, employés santé yo pas voulu prendre soin haïtien ça qui te prend balle yo dit que le fait que yo c'est étranger yo pas gain accès avec système universel santé qui Brésil là. C'est un bagage qui nettement contradictoire parce que système ça nous les sources Brésil là qui c'est système universel santé, li doit ba accès avec n'importe monde parce que ça garantit dans constitution Brésil là. Ça montre tout une double violence. Non seulement violence qui a été subie par rapport avec moun sa yo qui était passé, qui était tiré sur yo, mais tout en deuxième violence qui vient pour lui avec même système santé l'État Brésil là. Dans le mois octobre, dans la même année 2015 là, dans un État qui relève Santa Catarina, dans le sud Brésil, côté qui a une prédominance et migration européenne, ils ont assassiné un jeune haïtien à Campil coup de couteau. Seulement pour nous avons une idée, dans l'État qui relève Santa Catarina, c'est un État qui a plus de mouvements néo-nazistes étant Brésil. Pour nous avons une idée, de 2010 à nos jours, Haïtiens ont fondé plus que 30 associations au Brésil. Ça montre qu'ils ont senti nécessité pour organiser, pour lutter pour droit humain, pour lutter tout pour la vie. Dans le pays Chili, la situation haïtienne n'est pas trop différente par rapport avec l'expérience au Brésil. Pendant le travail de recherche, quelques Haïtiens qui étaient sortis Chili, il y a un qui dit qu'il a décidé de quitter Chili pour entrer au Mexique, pour tenter d'aller aux États-Unis, pour être humiliation et violence qu'elle subit chaque jour dans la rue, dans le train, dans le quartier côté la vive étant Chili. Agression verbale, agression physique. Un jour, par exemple, il était dans un train avec madame qui était enceinte, un petit petite lit. Même si la loi transport Chili dit que dans le train, moun enceinte gen préférence pour yo chita, yo quitté yo dé à camper. Yo pas bay madame la place pour chita. Et puis, une petite jeune dame chilienne, pendant la descente train dans une station, l'arrivée, li pousse, li bourrade haïtien, et puis il dit, en espagnol, vuelve para su país negrito, retournez dans le pays où tu nègre. Tout acte ça a montré, gen l'autre qui a raconté tout, yon simple discussion, voisinage, yon chilien boulé, taille famille, yon haïtien. Di fait ça fait un ravage. Comme te gen plusieurs kay haïtien, yon collé ak l'autre. Di fait ça boulé plusieurs kay haïtien. Et puis, en plus de ça, yon accusé propre haïtien, c'est eux même qui te mette di fait. Dans zone là. Tout ça yo fait partie, moi te ka dit, yon logique avec yon tactique anti-haitianiste qui ne pas pour l'ouest seulement avec anti-haitianiste, tant que l'autre collègue moi te déjà dit, qui gen pour l'ouest tout avec li fait partie yon système raciste global. Et cas ici son cas qui montre qui genre raciste ça li opéré. Eh bien, pour nous terminer première partie présentation ça après pour nous participer dans la discussion dans le débat. Eh bien mouvement ça qui commence aujourd'hui que moi relais combat transnational ça gagne un rôle important dans lutte contre tout discours et action raciste et préjugés pas seulement contre seulement peuple haïtien, peuple migrant haïtien dans diaspora mais à tout le monde qui veut lutter pour droits humains. Eh bien, ça nous a pensé qui instrument légal et puis qui média et technologie, information et communication que nous avons utilisé tout dans le mouvement ça qui pour protéger vie et droits humains tout haïtien et tout migrant et la trier. Et puis merci en pile.
Thank you, everyone. Merci un peu tout le monde. We're going to divide into our discussion groups. This will allow those of us who want to contribute, because this space is too large to kind of raise hands and share in the chat. It becomes overwhelming. However, the groups themselves will allow us to share with one another.
Can I say something briefly?
You're in the large meeting now with the 100.
I just want to tell you that I have a daughter who's a cop in Chicago, and she would no more help with deporting immigrants than she would to gnaw her arm off. So if that gives you the teeniest bit of scintilla of hope, she's not the only one.
And brave people are called to be brave in spaces that we're not expecting. I think it's important to remember not to make assumptions about people's perspectives. And we are 107 strong. We are 117 people now. The idea was to just check back in about any concrete ideas for solutions or next steps or any suggestions for resources to be developed. There were 7 breakout rooms. Do we want to just one by one share those out? These Google Docs were created. We will be able to use these. If someone took notes off the Google Docs, please feel free to email them to Darlène, Dubuisson, and myself, who are going to be compiling them. I will send my email in the chat. I'm comfortable with people having my email address. But group 1, would you like to briefly share some solutions that you identified? Oh, that was the Creole. Handerson, est-ce que un petit résumé de 2-3 solutions qui nous t'est touché dans la discussion, nous t'est fait?
Bon, dans cette discussion, nous t'ai fait, il y a plusieurs collègues qui ont plusieurs propositions. Donc, je ne vais pas citer toutes là, dans le moment ça, mais moi, je vais citer quelques là-dedans et que je dis que pour nous continuer information médiatique, continuer publier articles, par exemple, vous-même pour déjà prendre l'initiative ça dans le blog là avec Darlène. Et puis, non seulement pour articles ça, et pour pas seulement un langage académique, mais pour une façon pour arriver dans tout coin, côté qui est haïtien, côté qui est l'autre monde qui pas forcément haïtien, mais qui est intéressé dans la lutte ça. Et puis, il y a une bagaille dit tout, est-ce qu'il possibilité gain pour nous créer réseau social, par exemple, de mouvements que nous mettons sous pied là, même là, il y a quelques institutions qui déjà des réseaux sociaux comme WhatsApp, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, mais mouvement ça, est-ce que nous faisons des réseaux sociaux, propre groupe ça pour nous diffuser et publier et bagaille ça que nous faisons. D'accord, son façon tout pour nous joindre, river sur jeunes tout. D'accord, parce que journée jeudi, nous connaissons jeunes, ils plus utiliser réseaux sociaux. Et puis, il y a l'autre bagaille tout qui est très, très important, qui a été touché. C'est bon, ça c'est l'idée dans la prochaine discussion. Est-ce que nous avons groupe ça que nous avons formé là? Est-ce que nous avons gagné par exemple, une régularité, par exemple, pour faire discussion une fois par mois, on les comme ça pour que mouvement ça continue pour moun toujours sentir et gain force dans une avec l'autre. D'accord? Eh bien, est-ce que une proposition, est-ce que nous avons rassembler ça plus souvent? Bon, nous avons pensé un calendrier, etc., etc. Et puis, il y a l'autre bagaille tout qui a été parlé. Bon, ça sont plus un exemple. Ça, là, nous avons parlé long, comme par exemple, le temps qu'on a pour nous dire tout bagaille. Il y a quelques petits bagailles qui sont pour la dynamique qui genre pour nous conduire et débat. Par exemple, nous avons fait une seule question et nous pas besoin de faire en pile question à partir de questions ça et puis nous avons fait débat. D'accord? Et puis tout, il y a une proposition pour nous faire une liste d'organisations, une liste d'associations qui travaillent avec perspective ça que nous-mêmes nous intéressons, surtout tout le monde qui est avocat, qui travaille dans le domaine juridique, pour que et j'arrête dans le domaine légal là tout.
Merci un peu.
Bon, c'est ça. Nous avons mis des documents ça à disposition pour tout bagage nous dit.
Oui, oui, oui. Merci un peu. Et group 2?
Okay, so that's us.
Oh no, I think it's our group. I think Pooja, you'll be sharing first.
Oh yes. So I'm gonna hello everybody. First of all, thank you to the organizers. This is amazing. I'm really grateful to be connected to you all. And I think that in our breakout group, one of the big um, uh, emphases was that we need to be connecting. We need to be forging alliances, sometimes with unexpected allies. Ninaj Raoul gave the example of how in the first Trump administration, a lot of immigrant rights groups were working, anticipating the end of TPS for their specific immigrant nationality group. And it was only when they came together that they were really able to achieve things for the collectivity. Others in our group talked about, forging transnational alliances, transnational combit. And there were examples of, certainly one in our group, a filmmaker, talked about, transnational networks in terms of sourcing art, and film in particular. And he emphasized that, although there is a lot of attention right now on stereotypes of Haiti, one unexpected result has been that his students are much more interested in learning real things about Haiti and much more open to real experiences and reality. So he advised that, we try to be on the lookout for those openings. There was also in terms of finding and working with unlikely allies, there was some talk about looking for, kind of unsung allies. In Springfield, for instance, the mass media or the mainstream media didn't pay very much attention to the efforts of longtime Springfield residents to welcome newcomers. And, I think that we thought that could make a big difference. There was talk of, what if, for instance, local communities, what if there were National Haitian Appreciation Days that would highlight the contributions that Haitians have made, not just to the founding of the United States and not just, in terms of human rights, but also, currently on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you so
Gabrielle,
much.
were there other things that I missed?
I would just like to highlight, sorry, Darlene, real quick. I think Ninaj also mentioned the importance of cross class solidarities and cross-national solidarities as well. And thank you all again.
Thank you. Group 3, if we can keep it maybe to 1 or 2 minutes as we've gone over time, which is a good sign, but I want to be respectful of other people's time. Group 3.
Hi, everyone. I can share. I was taking notes. I'm Dasha Chapman, incoming secretary for HSA. I think some just big takeaways was similar to what we've heard before, the need to coordinate and communicate and share information across different constituents that are doing the work. That sometimes it's hard to find out what's actually happening on the ground. And this has long been written about and talked about in grassroots organizing and NGO work. The importance of story sharing and humanizing information was brought up from a kind of layperson's perspective. So getting out of our academic circles, if we are in the ivory tower. But also that April made an amazing point around the stories can't just stop at the story, that we need to work from our own spheres of influence and circles of power, from our own positionalities. So if we're involved in white churches who have long benefited and been very deeply entrenched in Haiti, April noted the the resounding silence of these white church organizations in the face of this new flare-up of anti-Haitianism. So if folks are involved in organizations connected to or within white churches, to have these conversations and start to do work from where we are. And this could just be translated across our different spheres of influence, as we say.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Group 4. That's Guerline's group. I'm not sure if Darlene's still here with
Lily
us.
had to leave. She had to leave. Someone else in the group maybe want to just share 2-3 solutions that y'all came up with, or questions of resources that we need to identify.
It's okay also if you weren't prepared to, but we do have the Google Docs and we will make those available to you. And we are writing an article based on this town hall gathering. So that's also important. We will be able to hear from everyone. Let's move to the next group.
Yeah. Group 5, Nathan can summarize for us. Go ahead, Nathan. I think we probably lost Nathan too. But basically, at every point, we have to stay informed electronically. In fact, one participant suggested that we have a informed electronic library where we can bring a lot of information together and people can rapidly activate it and access that. We have to do grassroots organizing at the local level. We know that we're going to lose, Haitians are going to lose their TPS. The Biden humanitarian program is going to go away. A lot of people probably have minor offenses. The government will use that to expel them. We talk about also creating alliances with churches, local networks, immigration groups that are already around, lawyers groups, and also reach out to the Haitian American professionals. One of the comments is that compared to the 1990s, today we have a lot more Haitian Americans, professionals, we even have elected officials, that we should not forget about that. And also we have to go back and do one-to-ones with people, have small conversations at churches, at communities, places of work, because basically we cannot assume that people know everything or understand really what's going on. So therefore, we have to go back to the grassroots level of engaging people on an individual basis to explain to them the implications of this of Trump's policies, not only on Haitians but on immigrants in general.
Thank you. And Paul, very quickly for our group.
Okay, so and this will be a summary. We're not hitting everything that was said, but we're just going to focus on a few things. First of all, how can we succeed? We have to identify the specific threats. So, TPS and the Biden Pro program will be targeted. Although, to be perfectly honest, TPS, it's a little more firmly rooted, and they tried to get rid of that under the first Trump administration, and we were able to fight back on that. But that is going to be a major fight. But we do have to take Donald Trump's threat at his word, and they may not distinguish based on immigration status, particularly entire families may be rounded up, including mixed status families, including U.S. citizens or permanent residents. maybe a legal resistance pathway, although the legal may not be legally based. So there is that threat that we're going to have to it's going to be an uphill battle. Anti-immigrant electoral platforms are very important. People, examples from Canada were mentioned about in Quebec, people who have basically been putting their electoral stake based on basically controlling immigration or limiting immigration, and also a lack of commitment of decision makers to uplifting Haitians when they're under fire. In the case of Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was given, and we're facing a situation where many Haitians may have no safe place to go, and we see really an anti-blackness problem, regardless of where it is, and people, whether they left Brazil, they left Chile, they left Mexico, they left the U.S., and many are going to Canada. So it's like Gaza. There's nowhere to go. It's a very, very difficult situation for our community. So also a lot of the anti-immigrant rhetoric about we don't belong, about Haitians are taking up space, and the implication is that that space is not ours. So what are some of the solutions based on many of these situations? We need solidarity networks from Canada all the way to Chile, basically throughout the Americas, networks for Haitians. What are they going to look like? And we mentioned, of course, the Réseau Hémisphérique and the work that Dr. Apollon has been doing very valiantly on a monthly basis to really bring people together throughout the Haitian communities in different countries. We mentioned also some of the tools that may be in place, for example, using state legislatures to really fight for local law enforcement to not cooperate with ICE. Although, again, that's an uphill battle. And we mentioned the 287G agreements that already existed between some of the very right-wing states and local law enforcement. And now the federal government will probably pick up on that and weaponize that. Also, the issue of both in Canada and the US, we've seen where Haitians who had a permanent status in Chile or Brazil, they will either use that to try to send Haitians back to those third countries, or even during the TPS screening, the whole firm resettlement question, that if you had permanent status in another country, that could be reason for excluding TPS eligibility. So they're probably going to use that more and more. We concluded on questions of allyship, what networks and alliances with broader Black communities can be established, and the cases of Morehouse and Howard and other universities were uplifted in terms of showing up in conferences in these spaces, in terms of getting the word out. So that's what we did, and that is the restitution. Thank you.
Excellent. Mark, I'll have you close this out, and then we'll hear from Cecile. And thank you all so much. This is necessary medicine for me.
I think technically speaking, there's a group 6 and they didn't get to talk.
That
But
might be Mark's group?
no, it's the one I was in.
Oh.
But I mean, whatever. It's just people in that group might have wanted to share something.
No, please share. Group 6.
Laura, do you...
Joelle?
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. Here. Hello, everyone. We discussed a number of things, especially the importance for non-Haitian people to act in solidarity so that the burden does not fall only and systematically onto the shoulders of minoritized groups. Although there was also some discussions about, how to engage meaningfully about that. Some suggestions were to attend demonstrations, be present, write to the newspapers, connecting to rapid response units when ICE, when it is known that ICE is going to target some very specific places. So that entails information, protection, information about places to avoid. Keeping on top of what's really going on in Haiti and not just mainstream media. Keep in mind the ACLU, continue to write affidavits for asylum requests, disseminate information in connection with other activist groups about TPS and other, other fragile statuses. There is also a question about what is going to happen to the bills about the importation of guns to Haiti from the US. And I know that in Minnesota, we have had very little success in convincing our representatives to sign on the bill. Only 2 of them have done so, but we keep on working on that, but I don't know if that's going to be dead in the water. There are suggestions for Haitians to always have a lawyer's number, have IDs, papers, anything that can prevent, deportation. And there are many other small and large suggestions, but those were, in a nutshell, what we discussed. Laura and other people in the group maybe have some, I hope I reported okay.
I think you did good.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
I'm just going to add a couple from my group. So resources that we would like to develop, a Haitian Creole asylum application. If any one of you in this room now has a copy of the asylum application in Haitian Creole, please
I do.
email me. Thank you. Please email.
It's not a very good translation, but I can send it to you. It's by Catholic Charities.
Wonderful. And Know Your Rights training. There's like trainers in Haitian Creole. What happens if you're deported? What happens if what your rights are? If someone knocks on your door, what your rights are in protest. This might be something to activate. Phone interpretation was also mentioned. Legislation for sanctuary cities and counties. Signal boosting what other folks said about local organizing is going to be key now in the next 4 years. So if anyone has sample legislation about your jurisdiction becoming a sanctuary city or a county, please share that out. We will share that back with everybody. And then also hold people accountable. So police departments and police chiefs, know what that means to not collaborate with ICE. For example, we talked about 2 ways of communicating moving forward. So we could create a WhatsApp group. We can create some sort of an email listserv. Once we sort out the logistics, Haitian Studies Association will send this back out to people that registered and have an opt-in system so that we can communicate with another and do next steps. So I wanted to thank everyone for coming today. Also, I thank Darlène, thank HSA for the initiative, and thank you all for showing up. I feel more energized now than I did 90 minutes ago, and that's because of the energy that you all brought to this. And I think we are, to repeat what François was saying, folks have been targeted before, and the community has withstood and has resisted. And I think that's part of why Haitian folks are targeted, is because of the model of resilience and resistance to racial capitalism and enslavement and anti-Blackness. So I do want, as Darlène was saying, to offer the opportunity for Cecile to close this out as the president of the Haitian Studies Association. So Cecile, thank you for your leadership, and the floor is yours.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Hello everyone. I just wanted to thank you for your presence, but I also wanted to make an ask that I've been shamefully or shamelessly putting in the chat. While we encourage people, we appreciate your presence. We do know that it takes a lot of efforts. All of us are volunteer. If you could donate, as we say in Creole, by petit pas di chiche, any little bit helps, because we have to pay the interpreter to use the Zoom. There's a lot of cost that goes into these programs. We want to keep making them happen, but we ask if you can donate and also share within your network. We know it's gonna be Giving Tuesday, no, Giving Monday, no, Giving Tuesday, giving something. Anytime you give, we'll take it. But I just wanted to say, it's been a long day for me. I just wanted to say thank you, merci en pile, and to Darlène and Mark especially. And behind the scene, we have the interpreters. We also have Irene and Julio. There's a lot, and Laura and Dasha. There's a lot that happens to make this event, even if it's online. So support us financially. Also become an HSA member. Thank you. Merci en pile. Bonne nuit.